Hello again, it's Simon, and this week I thought I'd talk about how to plan an event. So the first part of planning an event is figuring out where your start is, and sometimes you're told where to put a start, so put one in this park here, starting from there, and sometimes you have to look around for your start. And so what I'd look for a good start location, because this is the first thing you do, is I'd look for somewhere that's well connected to the track so you can run a white course off. Because the white course is probably the hardest one to plan in terms of restrictions. So it has the most restrictions. And so if your start course doesn't allow you to make a white course, then that's going to be a problem. So I'm sort of looking around. Yeah, and there's I can make some kind of loop through here for a white course. So that's all good. The next thing I look at is what am I looking for in terms of red courses? So is there enough detail nearby, or is there a way to get to the interesting bits of the map? And yep, there is. So this is the interesting bit of the map here. And you can get there, you can put a control on here or something to get people across. So that satisfies the easiest and the hardest bits of the course, the things that the start needs to do. The first thing I'll then do once I've done that, so the next thing is I'll plan a white course. If you have a look at the descriptions, I have the controller, whoops, there we go, what courses need to do. And so a white course needs to have a control at every decision point. The course needs to follow linear features. And so when planning then, first thing to do is I'll just throw out a rough white course. So this is going to be a super short one. Don't worry about it. We'll take them this way. Something like this. And just take them around like that. So that's basically what a white course should look like. And with a white course, often you'll have controls really close together, just because that's how it needs to be, and sometimes you won't bother. Depends on what you're doing. So I construct my white course. The next thing I'd do is I'd actually plan a rough outline for a red course. So that's looking for the hardest parts of the map. And again, if we bring up a sort of document I've got here, where I sort of typed out what the requirements are. The red course, you're going to be wanting to make sure it uses contour features and compasses. Compass-like stuff, you're going to want to try and make it so that you don't have really strong attack points. And you're going to want to try and introduce difficult route choices. Also, trying to make the features of controls run less obvious. So that's less buildings and more like little re-entrants and tiny cliffs and that kind of thing. So I'd try and throw out a red course. And so what I want to do is get out into the interesting bit of the map as soon as possible. And so I'll just try and use some controls somewhere to get me over that way. And so as I'm just throwing out sort of a rough sketch. Oh, like maybe and then maybe you want to finish the same way. So there we go. That's a simple red course. And I'd do the same for yellows and oranges. So yellows being like a white course, except rather than every decision point. Again, bring up the thing. So yellow courses controls no more than 50 meters from linear features. There should be an opportunity to shortcut. And oranges want this thing called catching features, which is something to means if you go too far, you'll hit this thing within 100 meters that says, hey, you've gone too far. And again, orange is where you start introducing contour features and compasses, where you start using them. And you'll be also looking at attack points, route choice, and stepping stones. So once I've made my courses, in this case I've got two, I've got this red and this white one, I would then go over them again. I've got this rough example. Now I'd look at some of the things. Now I'm looking at the legs rather than the control sites themselves. So for example, for 1 to 2, is there an interesting route choice? Not really, you're always coming up here. But how interesting is navigation? Is it difficult? Is it challenging? That kind of thing. I think it's fine. 2 to 3, do I like that? Maybe I don't like 3 to 4. But there's a reason why I don't do that. So maybe I don't like 3 to 4, so I'll put another control in somewhere. Maybe I want to put it there instead. That kind of thing. And then once I'm happy with all of these, I'll get the controller. So often if you took hold to plan something, you begin the controller. If you haven't, just find someone who's sort of experienced and ask them if they can look over your courses. So in this case, I'd probably get Paul to look over these, and he'd tell me, I'm not sure I like 5 to 6, maybe because I don't think people should be going through here. So could you consider moving it? And so I'd move it around to somewhere else. And then maybe he's like, well, I want to put control between 1 and 2. And they'll give you just things you need to do. And they'll be thinking about safety, how long the course is, and that kind of thing. So, for example, this red course is 1.5 kilometers, so they'd probably tell me to make it longer and do some other stuff. And then once we're sort of both happy with the course, I'd go out and field check. So I would actually go out, print off both of these maps, and just go out and run the course, or at least check all the control sites and the tracks to make sure everything's okay. Maybe as it turns out, for example, one of my red controls, that this cliff doesn't exist anymore, and so I have to put it somewhere else. And so that might come up. Or maybe it's that actually this entire area here is green and you can't run through it anymore. Or that some of these tracks are sort of slippery than you're intending, so the white course probably shouldn't use this track. And then you have to figure out how to change it. That kind of thing. So you go out, you field check, you come back, you tweak your courses. So if I can't use this track, maybe I take them down here and do a longer course. Looks something like this. And then if you're not sure on what that looks like, then you could do it again. So that's the basics to control, just sort of planning an event. So you start with the start triangle, and that needs to be able to plan a white course off. So you need to be attached to the tracks, and then you move through, and you plan the red course next because that's the hardest course, and then you go on to the orange and yellow. Get a second pair of eyes on it to make sure that they're looking at things like to make sure you're not sending people over cliffs or up things that they shouldn't be, and that kind of thing. Then you go out and field check, and then hand it off to whoever's sending it to the printers. So that's it for this week. So until next week, bye, and happy orienteering.